The Lake House Promise Broken. Chapter 1. The Garage of Memories. In the quiet town of Pine Ridge, Minnesota, where the winters stretch long and unforgiving like a frozen river, and summers burst with the scent of wild lupines and fresh-caught walleye, Dolores Harper's life had always been anchored by the simple rhythms of small-town existence. Born in 1955 to a lumberjack father and a school teacher mother, Dolores grew up in a modest two-story house on Elm Street, the kind with creaky wooden floors and a wraparound porch that caught the afternoon sun. Pine Ridge wasn't much, a dot on the map an hour north of Brainerd, with a main street lined by a diner, a hardware store, a Lutheran church, and the public library where Dolores had worked part-time for the last 15 years. The population hovered around 4,800, folks who knew each other's business but pretended not to, the sort who waved from pickup trucks and shared recipes for hot dish at potlucks. Dolores's husband, Tom Harper, had been the heart of her world. They met in high school in 1972, when bell-bottoms were in and the Vietnam War was winding down. Tom was a gearhead even then, tinkering with his dad's old Ford in the school parking lot. He had that easy Midwest charm, tall with calloused hands and a laugh that rumbled like a V8 engine. They married in 1974, right after graduation in the church basement with punch and finger sandwiches. Tom got a job at the local auto shop, eventually buying it out in the 80s when the owner retired. Dolores worked as a secretary at the mill until their son Ethan came along in 1979. The garage behind their ranch-style home on Birch Lane became Tom's sanctuary. It started with one car, a 1969 Chevrolet Chevelle SS 396 in Hugger Orange, brought for $2,500 from a farmer in Brainerd who needed quick cash. Tom spent weekends under the hood, Dolores bringing him iced tea in summer and hot coffee in winter. "This baby's gonna outlast us both," he'd say, wiping grease from his forehead. Over the years, the collection grew. A 1970 Dodge Challenger RT with the 440 six-pack engine, rescued from a barn in Duluth. A 1968 Pontiac GTO clone he rebuilt from scratch, piece by piece, with Ethan helping as a kid. And a 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback, primer gray when he got it, but shiny black by the time he was done. Those cars weren't just metal and chrome, they were stories. The Chevelle was for cruising Highway 371 on summer evenings, windows down, AM radio playing CCR's Born on the Bayou. The Challenger for drag strip fantasies Tom never quite pursued. The GTO for the times Ethan, at 16, begged to take it to prom. And the Mustang? That was Dolores's favorite. Smooth, reliable, the one Tom let her drive to the library on rainy days. Life was good, in that unassuming Minnesota way. Ethan grew up strong and smart, playing hockey in winter and fishing in summer. He went to community college in Brainerd, then transferred to St. Cloud State for business. Met Sarah there in 2000, a city girl from the Twin Cities suburbs with highlighted hair and ambitions for a house with granite countertops. They married in 2004, had Mia in 2016, and Jack in 2021. Ethan worked as a sales rep for a building supply company, traveling the state, always chasing the next commission. Tom died suddenly in 2007, at 52, heart attack while shoveling snow after a blizzard. Dolores found him in the driveway, shovel still in hand. The funeral was packed. Half the town showed up with casseroles and condolences. Ethan spoke, voice cracking. "Dad taught me everything, how to fix a carburetor, how to be a man." But after, life changed. Ethan moved to St. Cloud with Sarah, visits sporadic. Dolores kept the garage locked for months, then started the engines herself once a month, following Tom's notes in a grease-stained notebook. By 2021, at 66, Dolores's days were routine. Mornings, coffee black, oatmeal with blueberries from the farmer's market. Afternoons, library shifts, helping kids with story time or seniors with computer classes. Evenings, PBS on the old TV, knitting scarves for the grandkids she saw mostly on holidays. Her Social Security and Tom's pension covered the bills, $1,800 a month total, enough for the mortgage-free house, groceries at the Piggly Wiggly, and a little squirreled away in savings. The cars sat, symbols of a life paused. Then Ethan called a Saturday in July 2021. "Mom, can I come up? Need to talk." He arrived in the Chevelle. He'd borrowed it, said it reminded him of Dad. They sat at the kitchen table, formica top scratched from years of family meals. Tom looked older than 42, lines around his eyes from road miles. "Mom," he said, stirring sugar into his coffee, "Sarah and I found something special, a cabin on Birch Lake. Not one of those fancy resorts, real Minnesota up north stuff. 2 bedrooms, screened porch, stone fireplace, dock with room for a boat. Private lot with birch trees everywhere. The kids would go nuts swimming off that dock." Dolores pictured it. Birch Lake was 5 miles from town, a gem with clear water and loons calling at dawn. She and Tom had talked about a lake place forever, but bills always came first. "How much?" she asked, practical as always. "Asking $285,000. We can negotiate to $260, but the down payment, we need $40,000 to avoid extra fees. Sarah's parents are chipping in for closing, but we're short. Mom, I hate asking, but—" His eyes flicked to the garage window. "The cars," Dolores said quietly. "Not all," Ethan rushed. "Maybe the Chevelle and Challenger. I checked online. Hemmings, bring a trailer. Clean ones like Dad's go for 35 to 50 grand easy. You keep the GTO and Mustang. Dad would want this, Mom. A family legacy on the water." She didn't answer right away. That night, she walked to the garage, flipped on the fluorescent lights. The Chevelle's orange paint glowed. She ran a hand over the hood, remembering Tom's grin after a polish. "These are for the family," he'd said. 3 days, she thought. Walked the lakeside path alone, pebbles crunching under her sensible sneakers. Watched families picnicking, kids splashing. Remembered Tom's dream. "A lake place is forever, Dolores. Hold on tight." On day 4, she called the broker in Minneapolis. They appraised Chevelle $48,000, Challenger $42,500. She sold them, wired Ethan $40,000. He cried on the phone. "Mom, you're amazing. I promise you'll have your own room, key to the place. We'll make memories like Dad wanted. Fish, bonfires, everything." The closing was September. Photos arrived, knotty pine interior, lake view from every window. Dolores smiled, imagining her chair on the porch, book in hand. Chapter 2. First Summers on the Water. The Memorial Day weekend of 2022 arrived with the kind of weather Minnesotans dream about all winter long. High blue skies, temperatures in the low 70s, a light breeze off Birch Lake that carried the scent of warming pine needles and freshly mown grass. Dolores Harper woke at 5:45 a.m., as she had every morning since Tom passed 15 years earlier. She made coffee in the percolator, black, no sugar, the way Tom liked it too, and sat at the kitchen table with the window open, listening to the robins and the distant hum of Highway 371 traffic beginning to pick up with holiday travelers heading north. She had packed the GTO the night before, a small duffel with clothes, practical cotton blouses, khaki capris, sensible walking shoes, her knitting bag with half-finished scarves for Mia and the baby on the way. No, Jack was already here now, turning 1 in July, and a cooler with potato salad, deviled eggs, and a rhubarb crisp she'd baked Thursday evening. The car smelled faintly of lemon polish and old leather, the same scent that used to cling to Tom's flannel shirts after he spent an afternoon detailing the Chevelle. She left Pine Ridge at 7:15 a.m., the town still half asleep except for the gas station on Main, where old Mr. Lundberg was already sweeping the lot. The GTO's 400 cubic inch V8 purred as she turned onto County Road 1, windows down, radio tuned to the classic rock station out of Brainerd that played mostly songs from the 70s. Bad Moon Rising came on, and Dolores sang along softly, the way she and Tom used to on long drives to Fargo for car parts. The turnoff to Birch Lake appeared after 20 minutes, a narrow gravel road lined with white pines and paper birches, their trunks glowing in the morning light like fresh paint. A small wooden sign, hand-carved by Ethan himself the previous fall, read, "Harper Hideaway, Private." Dolores felt a flutter in her chest, pride mixed with something softer, more vulnerable. This was real now. Her money, Tom's cars, had become something tangible, a place where grandchildren would run barefoot, where laughter would echo off the water the way it once did in their backyard when Ethan was small. She pulled into the short driveway behind Ethan's Subaru Outback. Before she could even turn off the engine, the screen door banged open, and Mia, 6 years old, all elbows and knees, hair in uneven pigtails, came sprinting across the patchy lawn. "Grandma, Grandma, you brought the orange car!" Dolores laughed, the sound surprising her. She hadn't laughed out loud much in recent years. "It's called Hugger Orange, sweetheart. Your grandpa picks the color himself." Mia circled the GTO like it was a museum piece, touching the fender reverently. "It's so shiny. Can I sit inside?" "After breakfast," Dolores promised. Ethan appeared next, barefoot in cargo shorts and a faded University of Minnesota hoodie, coffee mug in hand. He looked tired around the eyes, sales quotas, long drives, but his smile was genuine when he hugged her. "Mom, you made it. Road good?" "Smooth as glass," she said, patting his back the way she used to when he was 10 and scraped his knee. "Brought potato salad and rhubarb crisp. Figured you'd be too busy grilling to think about sides." Sarah followed a moment later, holding Jack on her hip. The baby was chubby-cheeked, blonde curls, chewing on a teething ring. Sarah wore yoga pants and a loose tank top, hair in a messy bun, the uniform of young mothers everywhere. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Dolores, so good to see you. Come in. We've got coffee going." Inside, the cabin smelled of knotty pine, wood smoke from last night's fire, and something faintly sweet, maybe Sarah's vanilla candle. The open living area flowed into the kitchen, fieldstone fireplace on one wall, worn leather couch facing it, a small dining table by the windows overlooking the lake. Sunlight poured across the pine floors, making dust motes dance. Dolores set her cooler on the counter. "Where should I put things?" "Guest room's all yours," Ethan said quickly. "We cleared it out, fresh sheets, everything." She carried her bag down the short hallway. The guest room was small but bright, twin bed with a blue quilt, nightstand, closet, and one window facing the lake. A single Adirondack chair sat on the grass just outside, positioned perfectly for morning coffee. Dolores set her duffel on the bed and stood at the window a long moment, watching a loon dive and resurface 50 yards offshore. The water was mirror still, reflecting the opposite shore's trees upside down. "This is mine," she thought. Not just a visit, a place. Breakfast was chaos in the best way. Mia chattered nonstop about the sunfish she'd caught yesterday. This big, hands exaggerated. Jack banged a plastic spoon on the high chair tray. Ethan flipped pancakes on the griddle, while Sarah sliced strawberries. Dolores helped set the table, feeling useful, included. After breakfast, they moved to the dock. Ethan had already rigged poles, simple Zebco 202s for the kids. He baited Mia's hook with a worm, showed her how to cast without hooking herself. Dolores sat on the edge, legs dangling, holding Jack on her lap while he splashed his bare feet in the water. "Look, Grandma, watch this." She cast, the bobber plopping 20 feet out. Within minutes, it jerked. Ethan helped her reel in a small sunfish, orange and yellow, flapping indignantly. Mia squealed with delight. "First fish of the season," Ethan said, high-fiving her. "Just like Grandpa taught me." Dolores felt a lump in her throat. She looked at Ethan, his grin, the way he crouched beside his daughter, and saw Tom so clearly it hurt. They grilled burgers for lunch on the Weber kettle Ethan had bought secondhand. Charcoal smoke drifted across the lawn. Sarah made a green salad with feta and olives. "Healthier than chips," she said lightly. Dolores contributed her potato salad, the one with mustard, celery, and hard-boiled eggs, the recipe her mother taught her in 1968. Afternoon brought swimming. Mia cannonballed off the dock repeatedly. Jack floated in an inflatable ring, giggling every time a wave rocked him. Dolores sat in her Adirondack chair with a library paperback, a cozy mystery about a baker solving crimes, watching them. Ethan joined her after a while, towel around his neck. "Thanks again, Mom," he said quietly, "for everything.
This is what we dreamed about. She reached over and squeezed his hand. I know, your dad would be proud. That evening, they built a fire in the pit, marshmallows roasted on sticks, chocolate and graham crackers laid out on a tray. Stars came out thick and bright, no light pollution here. A loon called across the water, answered by another. Mia fell asleep next to Dolores, sticky fingers clutching her sleeve. When everyone went inside, Dolores stayed by the dying embers a little longer. She poked the coals with a stick, watching sparks rise. For the first time in years, the silence around her didn't feel lonely. It felt full.
She visited twice more that summer. The 4th of July weekend was louder, brighter. Ethan had invited 2 couples from St. Cloud, work friends with kids Mia's age. The dock was crowded with towels, coolers, inner tubes. Someone brought a Bluetooth speaker, classic rock mixed with kids' laughter. Dolores helped Sarah in the kitchen, chopping watermelon, feeling the easy rhythm of women working together. Fireworks that night came from the town marina across the lake, cascading reds, blues, golds reflected on the water. Mia sat on Dolores's lap, gasping at each burst. Jack slept through most of it, head on Ethan's shoulder. "You okay, Mom?" Ethan asked during a lull. "Better than okay," she said. The August weekend was quieter, just family. Ethan took Mia fishing early one morning while the mist still hung over the lake. Dolores watched from the porch with coffee, listening to their voices carry across the water. "Gentle now, sweetie, like Grandpa showed me." When they returned with 3 crappies, Ethan cleaned them on the dock while Dolores breaded and fried them in the cast-iron skillet. Dinner was simple: pan-fried fish, coleslaw, corn on the cob. Sarah seemed more relaxed that weekend, even laughed at one of Dolores's stories about Tom trying to teach Ethan to drive stick in the Mustang when he was 14. But small things began to register, like pebbles in a shoe. Sarah started rearranging cabinets, just organizing. The guest room closet, once empty for Dolores's things, now held extra beach towels and Mia's old floaties. A lavender candle appeared on the nightstand. The scent clung to everything. When Dolores commented on it, Sarah said, "Oh, it's calming, helps me sleep." Ethan spent more time on his phone, checking emails, replying to texts. "Work never stops," he apologized. One afternoon, Dolores suggested hot dish for dinner, tater tot, the classic Minnesota comfort food. Sarah hesitated. "We're trying to eat lighter. Salads are better for the kids' nutrition." Dolores smiled, said nothing, and made a big Caesar salad instead. By Labor Day, when she packed to leave, the guest room felt slightly less hers. A folded pack-and-play stood in the corner. The Adirondack chair had been moved closer to the fire pit. She hugged them all goodbye. Mia clung to her legs. "Come back soon, Grandma." "I will, sweetheart." Driving home, the GTO's engine humming steady, Dolores replayed the summer in her mind. Good moments outweighed the small slights. She told herself it was adjustment. New house, young family, busy lives. But a quiet voice whispered, "They're making it their own," without quite making room for you. 2023 arrived with a colder spring. Snow lingered into April. Dolores spent more time at the library, organizing the summer reading program. She befriended Ruth, a retired nurse in her 70s who volunteered Tuesdays. They drank coffee in the break room and talked about grandchildren, husbands gone too soon, the price of groceries. "You been up to the lake place?" Ruth asked one day. "Twice last summer. Beautiful. Kids love it." Ruth nodded knowingly. "Hope they remember who helped make it happen." Dolores changed the subject. Ethan called in May. "Mom, cabin's open Memorial Day. Come up?" She went. The drive felt familiar now, comforting. But the cabin had changed subtly. New throw pillows on the couch, geometric patterns in teal and gray, a Keurig on the counter instead of the percolator, Sarah's touch everywhere. The weekend passed pleasantly enough. Mia, now 7, showed off her swimming strokes. Jack toddled everywhere, saying "Gamma" and reaching for Dolores. Ethan grilled steaks. They played cards by the fire, go fish with the kids, then rummy with the adults. But Sarah mentioned Airbnb again. We did 2 weekends in April, made almost $1,200 after fees, helps with the taxes. Dolores nodded. Smart. Inside, something tightened. Those weekends were booked when she could have come. June brought another visit, solo this time. Ethan was traveling for work, Sarah had the kids. Dolores arrived Friday evening. Sarah greeted her warmly enough, but the energy felt different, more polite than excited. They ate takeout pizza from the place in town. After the kids were in bed, Sarah opened a bottle of white wine. They sat on the porch. So, Sarah said, how's the library? Same as always, kids keep me young. Sarah smiled. You're good with them. Mia talks about you all the time. Dolores sipped her wine. I'm glad. A pause. Crickets. Lake lapping. Sarah spoke carefully. We're thinking of doing more rentals this summer, maybe 3 or 4 weekends. The mortgage is tight with Ethan's commissions down this year. Dolores set her glass down. I understand. We'd love for you to come when it's just us, Sarah added quickly, but the extra money, college funds, you know? Dolores looked out at the dark water. Of course. She left Sunday morning earlier than planned, said she had a library meeting Monday. Sarah hugged her goodbye. Mia waved from the dock. Driving home, Dolores felt the shift more clearly. The cabin was no longer primarily a family gathering place. It was becoming an asset, an investment. July 4th that year, she stayed home. Ethan called, apologetic. We've got friends coming up. Next weekend? She said yes, but didn't go. August, she visited once. Ethan was there alone with the kids, Sarah visiting her parents in the cities. They fished, swam, made s'mores. For 2 days, it felt like 2022 again. But when Sarah returned Sunday night, she was brisk. We need to winterize soon. Ethan's looking at quotes for the dock. Dolores offered to help pay for half. Ethan hesitated, then accepted. She wrote the check that night, $800. As she drove away Monday morning, she glanced in the rearview mirror at the red roof disappearing behind birches. The guest room light was already off. That winter, over coffee with Ruth at the library, Dolores admitted quietly, I think they're making it their own. Ruth patted her hand. Families do that, hun. Doesn't mean they love you less. But Dolores wasn't so sure anymore. She started the GTO more often that winter, just to hear the engine. Sat in the garage with the door open, even when it was 20 below, wrapped in Tom's old car hat jacket. She missed him fiercely those months, and she began, almost without realizing it, to miss the version of family she thought the lake house would bring. By spring 2024, the invitations thinned to phone calls. Thinking of you, Mom. Kids ask about you. But dates were vague. We'll set something up soon. Dolores stopped asking. She gardened more that year. Tomatoes, zucchini, rhubarb. Joined a senior walking group at the community center. Made new friends. Arlene, who lost her husband to cancer. Bill, a Korean war vet who still bowled twice a week. Life in Pine Ridge moved forward, but every time she drove past the turnoff to Birch Lake, she felt a small, persistent ache. The promise hadn't broken yet. It was only beginning to bend.
Chapter 3. Whispers of Exclusion. Spring 2025. Ethan called. Cabin needs work. Roof leak after that ice dam. Dock rotting. Airbnb helped. $1,500 last month. More this summer for kids' college or a boat. Dolores listened, heart sinking. June 2025. She drove up unannounced. GTO rumbling, rain threatening. Parked behind, heard voices on the porch. Ethan, Airbnb's gold, $2,800 June. Full summer, we could bank $10K. Sarah, perfect for the boat. Or Mom's craft room. She's retiring, wants to be closer to the kids. Dolores froze. Ethan, yeah, Mom doesn't come much, happy in town. Sarah, we should tell her not to visit as often. She's older, what if she falls? Motel in Pine Ridge if she wants. Ethan, she's fine, but yeah, suggest that. Dolores slipped away, drove home tearless until the garage. Then sobs came,
deep and raw. She pieced it over weeks. More calls for money. 1,200 septic, 800 winterization, 2,500 roof, 3,000 pontoon repair. She sent, whispering, family. January 2026. The email mishap. CC'd by accident. Josh. Full Airbnb. Mom's room to craft space for Sarah's mom. She's better in her place. Pricing thoughts? Craft space for Sarah's mother. Dolores's room. She listed contributions on a pad. $40,000 down, plus $10,000 miscellaneous. Total $52,000. Cold clarity settled. Chapter 4. Taking control. Dolores called Margaret Olson, lawyer friend from church. Over diner coffee, black for Dolores, cream for Margaret, they reviewed emails, texts. Gift, but with promissory intent. Lien possible. Minnesota equity law favors contributors to property if shared benefit promised. Dolores filed the lien, $52,000 plus interest. Moved savings to new CD. March 2026. Ethan asked for $4,000 taxes. Come up, Dolores said. Talk. They came. Confrontation in living room. Tom's photo watching. She revealed all. Folder slid across. Lien. Trust for kids. Conditioned on visits. I'm protecting me, she said. Tears, please. They left shocked. Chapter 5. Rebuilding shores. Payments trickled. Ethan sold pontoon. Visits increased. Awkward at first, then genuine. Dolores walked with seniors, gardened, drove the Mustang. October, guest room hers again. She stayed, fished, read. Forgiveness slow, but peace came. At 71, Dolores had her place, on her terms.